of them? Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and take this time to silence or turn off all electronic devices. The ceremony will begin shortly. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Captain James Altman, and I'll be your narrator for today's ceremony. Today we honor Brigadier General McCauley von Hoffman as she is promoted to the rank of Major General in the United States Air Force. Our presiding official is Major General Katherine Johnson, United States Air Force retired. During today's ceremony, you will be given cues to stand and be seated at the appropriate times. During the national anthem, military personnel in uniform shall stand at attention. It is appropriate for all others to place their right hand over their heart. We are honored to have some very special guests with us today. General von Hoffman's husband, Colonel, United States Air Force retired, Mitch von Hoffman, and their daughters Candace, Victoria, and Kathleen. General von Hoffman's honorary commander, President Brad Mortensen, Weber State University, and his wife, Camille. Additionally, we want to welcome state, county, and city officials, Air Force attendees, special community friends and members of Team Hill with us today. Please hold your applause until all guests have been recognized. Davis County Commissioner, the Honorable Bob Stevenson. Executive Director, Utah Department of Veterans and Military Affairs, Mr. Gary Harder. From the Office of the Congressman Chris Stewart, Ms. Rhonda Perks. Major General, United States Air Force retired, Pat Condon, and his wife, Judy. Commander of the Land Component Command, Utah Army National Guard, Brigadier General Charlene Dalto. President, Utah Defense Alliance, Mr. Tej Flint. Commander, 75th Air Base Wing, Colonel Janice Carroll. Commander, 419th Fighter Wing, Colonel Matthew Fritz. Vice Director, Ogden Air Logistics Complex, colleagues who have come to celebrate this occasion, thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the playing of the arrival honors, the singing of our national anthem by Miss Lisa Wandry, and the invocation by Major General, U.S. Air Force retired, Pat Condon.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I invite you to pray with me, please. Our Heavenly Father, we pause to give you thanks for the many blessings that you have showered upon us. Blessings far too many, far too numerous to even count. Among those blessings is General McCauley von Hoffman. We give you thanks for placing her among us. We give you thanks for her leadership, her service to our nation, her sacrifices, and the sacrifices that her family has made in order to ensure her success. We ask a very special blessing upon General von Hoffman as she accepts this mantle of increased responsibility. We pray that you grant her the strength, the courage, the wisdom, to successfully face and overcome the challenges that are to come. And Father, we recognize as we gather here for this time of celebration that there are men and women of our armed forces who are in harm's way. We ask a very special blessing upon them that they might complete their mission successfully and return home safely. These things we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Thank you, Ms. Wandry and General Condon. It is my pleasure to introduce today's presiding official, Major General Retired, Katherine Johnson.
Wow, thank you. What a wonderful rendition of the national anthem. Thank you so much. That was just phenomenal. And thank you for that prayer. That was heartfelt and really nice to hear. Collie, thank you for letting me do this. It's kind of nice to be back in the Air Force for a minute or two, although I'll tell you, I don't appreciate having to put this uniform back on. I promise you the dry cleaner shrunk it. It's not me. You know, and in my little hometown, I'm known as Doc Johnson's wife, so it's kind of nice to be here today. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today, all you folks who came in person, and the special people here today, including General von Hoffman's husband, Mitch, and their 3 daughters, Candace, Victoria, and Kathleen, who I'm told gave up a trip to Vegas to be here, except one of them is going, let's go, KJ, because my flight's waiting. She's off to Vegas in a minute. I want you to know, really, you 4 in the front row, that everything that we talk about today, and when we get to the pin-on, that this is about you. You 3 ladies and Mitch, you need to know that none of this is possible without your love and support. And Mitch, I know being a fighter pilot, how hard it is for a husband, my husband's a fighter pilot too, to have his wife be such a superstar. But you're a superstar and I love you. For all of you folks that are here in person, thank you. I know that many of you all have been to a ceremony of this type before, right? Everybody's been to some sort of a change of command or a pin-on or something like that. I just want you to know that really this is just an excuse to have cake. So that's what we do, right? Has anyone else noticed this in the Air Force? And our Army brethren and sisters are probably laughing at us right now because in other countries and cultures, they celebrate things so differently. You know, maybe they have a feasting and dancing and killing the fatted goat. That's what they do in the Army. They kill the fatted goat, right? Because they're always talking about beat Navy. Kill the fatted goat. Come on, stick with me here, guys. But in the Air Force, no, we do cake. And so I just think it's kind of funny. It's just something I've noticed over the years that we always do cake. And I wonder what future civilizations will think about this barbaric cake ceremony. They'll be wondering, what was this cake thing? I don't know. In any event, I want to start this with this 45-minute speech. No, I'm just kidding. With how did we get here? I want to tell you a little bit about the promotion process. First of all, General von Hoffman's promotion board was held in Denver, Colorado. And for some reason, these boards are inevitably held in December, right around Christmas time, when no one's traveling, right? Or in January. And as you know, all you folks live in Utah, it's really fun to travel in the wintertime, isn't it? Because you have, you get all this snow and you get canceled flights and all that. That's so much fun to do. And then they got to find 6 general officers who have the time to come and do this, and they get their flight canceled, and they get to the airport, and they're already mad, and then they get in the line for the rental car, and they're inevitably behind 16 skiers who are in a big hurry to get to the slopes, and so they're already mad before they even get there. And then we lock them in a room with big bowls of candy, just what a fat general needs. It's a big bowl of candy in front of them. And now for the hard part. So General von Hoffman has been serving in the military for more than 32 years. So you can imagine that her records are about 8 inches thick and weigh in at about 10 pounds. And each board member has to review all of those records. Now, here's the tricky part. You get 3 minutes. No kidding, 3 minutes to review 32 years of service. So that's the hard stuff. All right, so that said, I should be able to cover her whole career in about 3 minutes. Somebody time me. Ready, set, go. All right, so Collie started her Air Force journey by attending Vanderbilt ROTC, and she was commissioned as a second lieutenant, working at Nellis Air Force Base. Don't go there, young lady. In supply and fuels. And you can imagine how exciting that must have been for a brand new second lieutenant to be in Las Vegas. You know, she's from Columbus, Mississippi. She's a Southern girl, and all of a sudden she's in Vegas. And I hope Maggie Sleeper watches this, because we'll have to give her a call later and get some of the real stories about what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas type stuff. Young and dumb. Well, we got to follow that up with her next trick, which was going to Kunsan Air Base in Korea. Now, I don't know if you all have heard about Kunsan, but most people who go there for an assignment, you get to bring back all kinds of fun souvenirs. Things like a mink blanket, or a handmade luggage, or a handmade purse. Sometimes you even get a custom-made suit, but not Collie. No, Collie brought back a fighter pilot as her souvenir. Mitch. No, nothing better than a good overseas romance, right, Mitch? I tried to warn her about fighter pilots, but she wasn't listening then. Anyway, it didn't take Mitch very long to know that he wanted to be a part of Collie's entourage, and then they were on their way to Spangalum, where Mitch was going to fly fighters, and General von Hoffman was cross-training into maintenance. And these two young captains set their paths together and decided very early on that what was important to them was service to their country, service to their Air Force, and family. And that's where they were blessed with Candace. Now, Candace, I don't know if you know this, but being born in Germany and being kind of a partial German citizen gives you certain rights and responsibilities. For example, it's mandatory that you must love German beer and German pretzels. And I check, please. Good girl. Anyway, this young family seemed to have been blessed with one great assignment after another, and so next they were off to Eglin for Mitch and Hurlburt to Collie on a joint spouse assignment. And for any of you who are military, married to military, you know that we don't do a very good job of keeping our folks together. But this was pretty good by Air Force standards, because it was only 25 minutes apart. So nothing better than flying fighters over a beautiful Florida sky and fixing airplanes and boats and beaches on the weekends, right? Only one thing could have made that better, and that was Victoria coming to join the party. And Victoria's birthright is that she is forever a beach baby. Next up, the family headed just a couple of hours up the road to Montgomery, Alabama, where Mitch joined the 187th Fighter Wing, and Collie was assigned to the Logistics Management Agency, where she was working with some of the smartest people on the planet from the RAND Corporation, and was trying to wrestle with those difficult logistics problems that we all know. You know, we have come such a long way in logistics and in aircraft maintenance, but we still always have problems to wrestle with, and she was taking that on. And anyway, that's when Kathleen became part of the joy. But I have to tell you a story about the 187th, and I know this is Collie's promotion, but I got to tell you this story. I also had an assignment to the 187th Fighter Wing, and one of the first things they asked me was whether I was an Auburn fan or an Alabama fan. And my response was, I am very sorry to disappoint you all, but I am a die-hard Air Force Academy fan, and I realize that I have signed on for a lifetime of heartache. And that seemed to satisfy them. But now, since Kathleen is a true Alabamian, I have to ask you, Auburn or Alabama? She won't answer. She said, roll tide, okay. Next move was pretty easy, right across the street to the 908th at Maxwell Air Force Base. And this was not very long after 9/11. And Collie led that group, that 908th maintenance group, and their C-130s on their first deployment in many, 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 many years. And they did a wonderful job in the desert. They really did, taking supplies and goods that last tactical mile where they needed to be, and really taking care of all of our warfighters. But I have to tell you this story about her return from deployment with the 908th. So she's on her way home. Big deal in Montgomery, Alabama. Huge deal. Local news. I mean, you could just imagine it. All the C-130s coming in and landing in formation and taxiing in, big crowd, reporters, TV, guests, all kinds of people. And Mitch is right there with their 3 beautiful little girls who are all in their very southern matching little dresses with the smocking across the top. And this one reporter just couldn't stand it, and she was like making a beeline to talk to then Major von Hoffman and her family. And so she says to Major McCauley von Hoffman, "So what do you do when you are not deployed?" And she says, without missing a beat, and points at Mitch and says, "Well, I'm his trophy wife." So now you know the secret. They printed that in the paper. Now you know the secret. She never lived it down. This is the secret of what her true job is she's the trophy wife, and she braids hair, too, if you want to have your hair braided. She's really good at it. That's what her real job is. Anyway, if that wasn't enough of a challenge, her next assignment was to the hurricane hunters down at Keesler. You talk about walking into a storm. I mean, literally walking into the storm, because that's what they do. You have to have those airplanes ready 24/7, 365 days a year, because what they do is they fly where no one else will fly, into the eye of a hurricane. And so you can't really predict when that hurricane's gonna happen, and so you kind of have to be ready all the time. Anyway, 3 years there, she was selected to be a group commander, and back up the road they went, back to Montgomery, Alabama, and to the 908th. But she couldn't just stand to be the group commander there, no, she had to say, "Send me." And she went to a little mini deployment to CENTCOM, where she worked for General C.Q. Brown at the Joint Operations Center and got to know him. So that was kind of fortuitous, wasn't it? All right, finally it was time to leave the South, kicking and screaming. No, not really. She moved to D.C. and to the Joint Staff. And we are talking D.C. traffic, D.C. prices, rental prices are crazy. A 6 a.m. start time, and 2 kids in middle school and 1 in high school. And then, of course, Mitch was a FedEx pilot at the time, so he was on the road a lot. She literally, and I kid you not, did not sleep for the next 2 years. She was up constantly. But they had an escape plan, and the family's escape plan was to head next to Air Combat Command down the road to Virginia and to the headquarters there, and she got to live near the Chesapeake Bay, work fighter issues. How much fun is that, getting to work with fighters, and do a little ocean kayaking on the weekend. That was kind of fun, huh, girls? From there, you know, it was kind of a ping pong game for her. Here to Ogden, working for General Steve Blameyer, back to Langley, back to ACC. She did get a little 6-month vacation, and yes, I used air quotes on that, to USAFE, where I'm sure she was able to hone her German wine tasting skills. I was getting texts from her and this other friend of ours about champagne in France. I don't know how that was, what was going on with that, but she was having a good time. Worked hard, but had a good time. And then now she's here today. So there you go. A 3-minute synopsis of more than 32 years of serving in the military. But what would you say in all of that I just said makes her or sets her apart that she would be promoted to Major General? What is it? What is it in all that 8 inches thick and 10 pounds of records makes her different? Because there's a lot of other officers out there who worked just as hard, who went just as many places, who did all of the same things. So what is it that's special about McCauley von Hoffman? Well, I'll tell you, it isn't her hard work ethic, although we know everyone here knows that she's an extraordinarily hard worker. It wasn't her brilliance. She's very smart. And it wasn't her good looks. Nor was it her taste in husbands, because everyone knows marrying a fighter pilot is not a good idea. I've been married to one for 38 years. I know this firsthand. You could look at all of those things that Collie has done and all of the places that this family has gone and say that there was no one thing that made her different than 1,000 other Air Force officers. But you would be wrong. What makes Collie different is her service before self. She always says, "Send me." We know what that core value means, that service before self, but I would submit to you that she has truly lived it, and she has embodied it, and that sets her apart. And one more thing, more than service before self. The people who went there to do that promotion board knew about her and knew about her reputation, and it's the people who have said, Collie's an Air Force core value person. She's a send me kind of person. And so with that in mind, that send me, this is not the end of her Air Force journey and not the end for this family either. We have way more to ask of you and way more to ask of Mitch and Candace and Victoria and Kathleen. More that you will have to give up, more time away, more emails, more phone calls, more trips to DC, more stress, and I'm really sorry, Collie, but a few more PT tests, so I guess that means a few more years of dieting and running. All right, so that's it. That's what sets her apart. There you have it, your 3-minute summary on how we got here today. But before we do the pin-on, I have a message for you. And so since this is going to be on YouTube, Collie, from your tribe, from your GNO Chicas, Elizabeth and Lee and Maggie and Vanessa and me, we love you. We're proud of you. Now go get them.
Thank you, General Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the publishing of the promotion order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Special Order Number AGO 2114, by direction of the President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, integrity, and abilities of Brigadier General Collie von Hoffman. In view of these special qualities and her demonstrated potential to serve in the higher grade, Brigadier General von Hoffman is promoted to the grade of Major General, United States Air Force Reserve, effective the 7th day of May, 2021, by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mr. von Hoffman, Candace, Victoria, and Kathleen, please come forward to pin on the second star. The pinning portion of today's ceremony is a tradition which highlights the significance of the first time a higher rank is placed on the uniform. The star is the oldest continually used rank in the United States military. The use of the star to signify the rank of a general officer can be traced to a June 1780 decree by General George Washington during the War of American Independence. It is believed that General Washington chose the star as a symbol of general officer rank in honor of its use in the Allied French Armed Forces. It is customary for family members or close friends to participate in the pinning ceremony to recognize their contributions to the promotee's success in achieving the higher rank. Thank you, von Hoffman family. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. General Johnson will now re-administer the oath of office to Major General von Hoffman.
I state your name.
I, Collie von Hoffman,
having been appointed
a
Major General
Major General
in the United States Air Force,
in the United States Air Force,
do solemnly swear
swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith
that I bear true faith
and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservations
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Throughout the history of warfare, a general officer's personal flag symbolized leadership on the battlefield. The Air Force has incorporated the use of flags to signify the presence of a general officer. This flag is visibly displayed in the office of the general officer. To commemorate her promotion to Major General in the United States Air Force, we will now unfurl Major General McCauley von Hoffman's two-star flag. Thank you, Tech Sergeant Brandon McKellar and Staff Sergeant Jesse Thompson from the Expeditionary Depot Maintenance Flight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Major General McCauley von Hoffman.
Wow. If only you all could have the view that I have right now. My heart is this big. My heart is this big because I am in this C-130 hangar with all of you, with my very favoriteest friends in the whole world, with my brothers and sisters in arms, and virtually, literally from across the nation, a lot of friends and family as well. Let me just say first, these ceremonies don't just happen the day of, as you can imagine. I'd like to thank our entire protocol team, but particularly Julie Lair, who demonstrates daily the Air Force core value of excellence in all we do. Captain Bratsberg and Captain Brinkerhoff, I know the work that you've put into it, and thank you so much as well. Jim Altman has done a fantastic job narrating today, just as he does in our front office every day. It's a pleasure getting to work with you. You know, when the promotion news went out a lot earlier this year, one of the first texts that I got was from Lisa Wandry. And she said, congratulations. And she also said, if you don't have plans for anyone else to sing the national anthem, I'm offering. And I've had the pleasure of witnessing Lisa, I see Kim is nodding also, of witnessing and listening to Lisa sing many times before, most notably at our daughters, Victoria and Matrace's baccalaureate program. Her voice and her smile never cease to amaze me. So thank you, Lisa, for that incredible rendition. So another really great part of living and working in this depot is that you get to do so in the company of former depot commanders and center commanders. Pat and Judy Condon were one of the first people to reach out to Mitch and I during our first assignment here, and they have been friends and mentors ever since. I'm so grateful for both of you, and especially that General Condon was able to give the invocation and be a part of the ceremony today. So thank you. And where are Sergeant McKellar and Sergeant Thompson? Okay, there they are. So the flag unfurling we all were able to witness is a ceremonial event with pretty complicated moves that the honor guard, the base honor guard, normally performs. They practice it a lot. They would typically be here to support our ceremony, but they have a much higher honor this afternoon, supporting the funeral of one of our veterans. So, Sergeant McKellar and Sergeant Thompson, from our very own expeditionary depot maintenance flight in the aircraft maintenance group, volunteered to learn the maneuver and to perform it for us today. Their day job is taking care of aircraft. Their day job is to deploy out to units to repair grounded aircraft that a field unit maintainer can't do. It's too complicated for them. They do that day in and day out. Their combat mission is to repair battle-damaged aircraft so that they can return to the fight. None of those crazy good skills that they have include stand-in duty for the honor guard. And so I can't thank you enough. And in all actuality, I didn't think this ceremony could mean any more to me, but the fact that you all did that makes it that more special for me and my family. So now it's my turn to tell you a little bit about Major General Katherine Jane Johnson and why she's on the stage with me. KJ graduated from the Academy only a very few years after the first class of female cadets. She has led at every level, commanded multiple squadrons, 2 maintenance groups. She served on Air Combat Command and Air Force Reserve Command staffs, as well as the air staff. If there was a demanding role for a supply or maintenance officer, she's done it. As a matter of fact, there's a long-standing joke in the Air Force logistics community that if there is a suicide mission job or a really huge grenade to fall on, call KJ. She'll do it. But she's so much more than an aircraft maintenance officer. She's a daughter, she's a military spouse, she's a Gold Star mother. She's a Gold Star mother to a Navy F-18 pilot. She's a mother and mother-in-law to 2 Air Force Academy grads and excellent officers. She's a world-class Gigi, and importantly to me, she's a mentor. Lieutenant General Kirkland recently said, "There's a lot to making an officer who will one day become a colonel. Chiefs and commanders shape that mold. But it takes a general officer to make a general officer. And it's their obligation and their payback." General KJ Johnson has understood this from day one. She's the founding member and leader of our Girls' Night Out posse that she mentioned before, which is a very questionable group of colonels, SES, and GO sisters in arms. She has her name all over our successful careers and has shown over and over again what it means to be a friend. So now you all know why she's on this stage with me. Most of you all know also I've had the great fortune to be assigned to the Ogden ALC twice. With that, you may also imagine that there are peers across the Air Force right now that have voodoo dolls of me with very sticky pins that they bring out every night in sheer jealousy. It's true that there's an aura of excellence, of service, and of pride here at Hill Air Force Base and our community, and in particularly our depot. We've been joking that the Senate was taking so long to confirm the Air Force promotion lists that we might have a combined team Christmas party and promotion ceremony. But all that aside, I was holding my breath, hoping and praying that confirmation would come before July so that I could celebrate this day with this very people in this hangar. My brothers and sisters in the depot business, the incredibly supportive community leaders, friends, and family. Everyone wants to be stationed at Hill Air Force Base, much due to the unmatched support we get from our community, whether it's the Falcons, the UDA, TUMAC, the universities and tech schools, local, state, and federal elected officials. They all have a true commitment to our mission and to the airmen on this base. Brad, Kim, Tage, Vicki, Pat, Kirsten, Susan, Jewel Lee, Gary, Barb, Steve, Bob, Julie, thank you for all you do for Team Hill, and especially for being here today. And speaking of Team Hill, there's two of my compadres here. It has been absolutely a blast serving alongside. Janice and Fritz, thank you for being fantastic wingmen. I won't call all the group and staff directors, squadron directors, and teammates from across the complex by now. That list of wingmen who have fought depot battles with me and who I could call out as a true supporter would run from here out the gate and 5 miles down Highway 89. But please know that each and every one of you make me walk through this depot every day with the hugest heart because I'm honored to serve alongside you. I will call out Veronica, Eric, and Hall for the professionals that they are and the amazing work they do and the really hard additional duty that they shoulder, and that's keeping me straight. And before I get to telling you a little bit about my family, I also want to tell you that military service forges friendships like no other occupation. And those friends are every bit as integral to your success as are the airmen, NCOs, chiefs, supervisors, commanders who help raise you. In my case, it's no different. So I've got a quick shout out across the nation here to Admiral Epps, Generals Banovich, Hickok, Arledge, Dornhofer, and Jenkins, and to Miss Method and Colonel Sleeper, who are attending virtually. And so about my family. So my family tree is not like a normal oak tree with a big trunk and a few sturdy branches. Nope, not my family tree. It's more like this highly invasive southeastern United States varietal vine genus Pereira, affectionately known as kudzu. And for those of you Mountain West natives who are unfamiliar with kudzu, it is as fast-growing as a hypersonic speed vine. It's known to climb telephone poles to call your relatives. It can cover livestock if it doesn't move within 4 minutes. And it covers the landscape of every backcountry road in northern Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi, which I call home. And so goes my family tree. Like kudzu, its vines spread far and wide with Pilkingtons, Kellys, and Benekes from Florida to California. Many of them are watching today. From care packages while deployed to taking care of the girls on drill weekend to calls of encouragement, my extended vine of a family has been there for the von Hoffmans our entire military service. I can't call them each by name, but please know if your maiden name or last name is Pilkington, Kelly, or Beneke, I love you with my heart, and I'm so happy you're watching. My siblings and partners in crime, Joe Barry, Candace, Jeff, and Johnny, are my strength. I can't imagine walking through life without them. And Joe Barry and Candace, you keep me laughing and keep me grounded. My parents, you know, what can you say? I wouldn't be here today without the creativity and passion for people that my mother Hetty teaches me, the work ethic and generosity my father, my dad, has modeled for me, the kindness that Madeline reflects every day, and the commitment to family that my papa and Jill show me. You never, ever stop trying to make your parents proud. And between my parents and my siblings, I've been running just as fast as I can to catch up. And so, in a somewhat similar hangar in July 2003, I was on stage and about to take the flag of my first squadron command. In the front row were my parents, Lieutenant Colonel Mitch von Hoffman at the time, and our 3 daughters, who were 2, 3, and 7. They were there, as KJ kind of mentioned before, I did have a thing for dressing them really cute. But they were there in pink French lace dresses and curls and bows, and you should have seen them. They really, truly stole the show. They were there then and have been by my side every step of the way, not just hanging tough when the moves came, but also, I don't know how many times I've said, embarrassing, I'm revealing, Candace, I'm at the gate without my ID card, and I have to be in a meeting in 20 minutes. Could you meet me at the Maverick? Or, Kathleen, could you please iron that uniform for me? And by the way, she charges $10 a pop, and it's worth every penny. And Vic, would you please meet me for lunch? Because I really need a pep talk. You often hear about how tough it is being a military brat, but these girls define all the strengths that come with that as well. I couldn't be more proud of you girls, and I love you with all my heart. And one more trip down memory lane, if you will. I signed an Air Force ROTC contract in August of 1989, literally on my 18th birthday. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just knew I wanted to go to Vanderbilt, and this was the way I was going to fund that decision. So I ran about ROTC, solidly finishing in the top 2/3 of my class, unselfishly taking up the lower tier stratifications to help out my ROTC classmates with those top tier ones. In short, I was most definitely voted most likely to punch out in 4 years. My plan, and it was a solid plan, was to do my payback of 4 years, get out and go to law school. But then there was Las Vegas. This was pretty fun. And then I get to Korea. And I'm there for all of 2.5 months, and in PCS's, this really handsome, really loud first lieutenant fighter pilot. We were met and married in 6 months because the Air Force says you're not going anywhere with him without a piece of paper. And so we did. We got married on our mid-tour, and all the old majors said, it'll never last. I left for my mid-tour as Lieutenant Kelly and came back as Captain von Hoffman. And almost 28 years later, we're still laughing. And I don't know if you all know this or not, but today, May 7th, is Military Spouses Appreciation Day. Well, Mitch and I are both military spouses. There's been a lot of give and take, and as Mitch would say, there's been a lot of roller coaster rides over the 28 years. But for my part, it's been mostly take for the last 4 years or so. So darling, I love you, and this amazing Air Force ride would never have been without you. And so next week, May 13th exactly, marks 32 years since I was commissioned. With this promotion, And with this promotion, and if I can stay one step ahead of the law, I'll get another 3 years before retirement. For all of you who have had a hand in getting this second star on my shoulder, I promise you that I will pay it forward. It's really all that I can do other than a huge heartfelt thank you. I promise that I will pay it forward by doing my very best to take care of your Air Force and our airmen. Thank you all for being a part of this special day.
Thank you, General von Hoffman. You are invited to join General Johnson in congratulating Major General and Mr. von Hoffman in receiving line in the back of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Air Force song. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. On behalf of Major General Johnson and Major General von Hoffman, thank you for attending and have a great Air Force Day.